And then we're going to hit share screen. Okay, and here we go. Just a couple of minutes of Angela Duckworth.
Kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure, things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks because that's where we are.
Okay, so that was Angela Duckworth. And if you go to YouTube, you'll find many variations on her original talk. You can find the original over an hour talk. You can find different size excerpts of it. And her book is Grit, the Power of Passion and Perseverance. So I recommend if you're a reader to take some time with it. And let's move on. Any questions about that? Okay, great. Okay, let's talk about recent inventory. I am so glad that Beatrice is on the call. Beatrice, you did very well since the last meeting. You got back from your long trip and immediately took 2 listings, which is great. Can you tell us about your listings, Beatrice?
Okay, so one is in Freeport, 2 bedrooms, totally renovated, but I got already accepted offer, 3 backups, contracts are out. So I don't think that one makes sense even to mention it. I still have choice, and hopefully by tomorrow, the buyer sign contracts. So I'm happy
Excellent.
with that one. The other was is in Ronkonkoma, is 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, totally renovated, beautiful backyard, had permits for build the garage as a mother-in-law, potential mother-in-law. I had the first showing yesterday. I put that one on Friday, actually Saturday. We got only 1 phone call, but I showed the house yesterday and it looks like they really like it. So let's see what happens with that one. So
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, that's good that you got that showing. The feedback from that showing will be very important. I just want to mention that listing on Robert Street in Freeport. Another agency had that, and believe it or not, at $399 screwed the thing up. The owners were so unhappy with how those agents had done their job that she asked for a release and did get it, which was quite surprising. I guess they realized they screwed up. And a week later, we're getting buyer to sign contracts. So great job. But it's also a good story to tell your prospective sellers. It's not what we do. It's not putting it on MLS. It's not putting it on Zillow that we get paid for. Anybody could do that. But in any market, you need an agent who's aware of how that market is going and how to talk to sellers, especially about what they need to do and not do. And obviously, this is a perfect example of when you get the right agent, you get the right result. You know, I like to look at the old pen analogy. You know, well, somebody else took our listing, and that, you know, this is especially true with expireds. You know, somebody took our listing, they couldn't get it done. I said, well, you know, the pen is just a tool. It's a matter of who's writing with it that makes the difference in terms of communication. And you just had the wrong person using the pen. So we need these kinds of stories to convince our prospects that we can get the job done for them. And there's a difference between how we do it and how other agents might do it. Any questions, comments?
Jan, only to give a little bit information, the house was 4 months in the market.
Yeah, 4 months at $399. What were they doing?
I don't know. I feel bad though. Like, I don't want to, like, we talk already about this. I don't want to say nothing wrong about my, you know, my professionals, but
No,
unfortunately, people, I don't know. I didn't know. I couldn't understand what happened.
Well, I understand very well, because I assert that close to 80% of agents in our market don't know what they're doing. They're not trained. They don't have the right experience. They don't have the right guidance. And this is not just something you walk out of your test and you know how to do. Nothing. Everybody here knows that what they taught you in real estate school has nothing to do with getting the job done in real estate. So it is a very frustrating thing. And I heard it several years ago at Inman, And then several times since that, the number one problem with our industry is the agents themselves, the ones that are in the market and shouldn't be there because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they give us all a bad rep. And that's why we're squeezed for commissions. And, you know, we have to be super on our game to convince people to use us because there's so little quality in the marketplace. And people who only sell their house once every 10 years have no way to decide. Okay, so that was the 2 traditional listings. Congratulations, Beatrice, keep them coming. We did have 3 REOs and 2 of them were not occupied. So things are looking up. As I said, the REO story is going to progress relatively slowly, but as we go through and we get through to January and February, we're going to start seeing some more activity and some more opportunity on that front. So that's all good. 33 Stillwell Street in Huntington is actually a legal 2-family, 5 bedrooms, 2 baths, asking $645. And you notice that REO prices are no different from any other prices now. The banks know what the market's like, and they're not going to be selling at a discount. And I'm pretty sure this one is going to sell close to asking. 511 County Line Road in Amityville is a Cape, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, listed at $295. I don't know why the bank hasn't accepted an offer. I think we have 15 offers already, but we all know that working with REOs is not a logical thing. And what the banks do or not do is really not our concern. We just do our job. And obviously this one is sold. We just don't know to who.
John, are there users coming out, or those are the contractors? Do you know?
Yeah, most of these things are not end users. Certainly
Really?
the 2-family isn't an end user. And the County Line Road, it's just, $295 sounds great, but when it goes for $320 and you need $80,000, you know, to take a 3 bedroom, 1 bath Cape in Amityville and pay, you know, close to $400,000, there's no deal there. So we'll talk more about the REOs as they start to heat up. But, you know, we know that the REOs attract a lot of attention, but go to very few end users, unless the bank has really made the effort to fix up the REO. And even then, it's sold as is with a draconian contract and very tight terms. So I would never be looking to, 99% of end users should not be buying an REO. And the other reason they shouldn't be buying it is because there's very little discount in price. You know, this is not 2012 where you really could get a really good deal. You know, people who bought REOs as end users in 2012 are sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity, but not people who bought in 2019, and certainly not people who buy this year at these prices.
Well, the cost of construction has gone through the ceiling.
Yes, absolutely. So you look at those, you know, costs of renovating, which used to be 50 or 60,000, and now they're more like 80 or 90,000. And the frustrating thing is you can't get somebody to do the job. And if you're looking for a particular piece of, you know, furniture or appliance, you might wait 4 months to get it. So it is difficult. But it's just the normal thing about REOs is when you get a lead and it's an end user, make sure you start educating them right from the start. And the first question I ask is, why do you want to buy a bank-owned property? And if the answer is to save money, 9 out of 10 times, that's not going to be right.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's go through some announcements. just a friendly reminder, we're getting closer and closer to the ethics requirement on December 31st. If you don't know if you've done it, you better check and get that done. As I was saying before, they had started out by asking you to pay for Gen Blue Virtual. And after the Gen Blue was over, they decided that they would refund all the people that paid for it and open it up. You should have gotten an email with a link to the recordings. And it is very useful for you to go through some of the stuff. So I'm going to just share my screen again. And I have something to share there. So here's the Gen Blue 2021. These are the agent courses, creating opportunity in a hot market, ultimate guide to rocking objections, using Google to build your business, don't fear your sphere, helping buyers in a tight market, Prospect Square, luxury market storytelling, 7 negotiation skills, priority time management and goal setting, revitalize, social media landscape, listing alchemy, that's pretty interesting, turning 1 listing into 4 transactions. I listened to that yesterday. Also, you have the general sessions that you can review if you like. So you have the full general session, or just Ryan Gorman's opening presentation, or Liz Geringer's presentation, the announcement of the affiliation with Warburg in Manhattan, and the award stuff. So it's pretty interesting to listen to the full general session. There's a lot of good stuff there. And then CB Inspires are stories of agents. So I recommend that highly. This is just an outline from the, hold on. Let me
Can
share
I
that.
add something on to what you said?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I went to the conference live and it was great. I don't think I'm ever going to miss one again. It charges you up, it revitalizes you. It's great to be there in person. It's great networking for people across the country. But I just wanted to add on to the Warburg announcement. That was a really big deal. And one of my agents, I don't know if you have anybody that works in Manhattan, but she knows Manhattan. She's comfortable. She wasn't comfortable with the co-op board applications. So she actually found somebody in Warburg and she's going to share it with her, and they're working together on it. So I thought that was a great thing for the agents to know. If you do have an opportunity in Manhattan, now we have somebody in there that can actually help you with the processes.
Yeah, and they're experts. They've been around a long time.
They've been around for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all good. Here's just an outline of the negotiation course, the 7 essential skills that they talk about. I found this to be a pretty good review of negotiation. And as I said, I recommend it. It's free, but it's not unlimited. There will be a time when you will not be able to get to these. So if you don't have the link, let me know. I'll resend it to you. I recommend that you spend a little time taking advantage of the free training and the information about where Coldwell Banker is going. In terms of where Coldwell Banker is going, the one big announcement that I thought was very interesting is they're revising their website from head to toe. And what's the idea of the revising? They're gonna make it a seller-facing website, which is very different from almost every other brand. Every brand, if you look at the website, they're attracting buyers. They're trying to get buyers to their listings. This is going to try to attract sellers. How it will work and how successful they'll be, I don't know, but I love the idea because that's putting first things first. And as I said, I don't know of any other company that has that strategy. Obviously, these things take time. We're probably looking at 3 to 6 months before we see the first version of it. But just the idea that they're moving in that direction and are going to be very friendly for the sellers, I think is a big announcement. Okay, the other thing that I think I picked up from something on Gen Blue, but sort of important. We know that we cannot let our buyers send love letters to the listings. That is a violation of fair housing. The thing I heard recently that I didn't know is, as a listing agent, you should advise your sellers that even accepting and reading a love letter can put them at risk. So, yes.
Can put who at risk?
Can put the sellers at risk when they make a decision and somebody finds out that it might have been based on what they read or did not read in a love letter.
Now, if these love letters, I mean, some sellers, I mean, buyers, as you know, are pretty savvy and they bypass us as the agents. And
We
they
can't
direct
do
them
anything
out.
about that. But we as listing agents can tell our sellers this is something that they're very uncomfortable with, the powers that be, and they're cracking down on it. And the fines from the Human Rights Commission can be exorbitant, unlimited. So there is no good reason for a seller to entertain one of those letters.
But that fine is not for the seller, it's for the seller's agent, correct?
No, it could be for the seller. Anybody can bring anybody among the Human Rights Commission, and if they prove their case, the fines are exorbitant.
And how about for the buyer who might have sent it, you know, without the realtors knowing?
Yeah, they could be in trouble, but probably less trouble than the seller, because what happens is, how does the complaint come about? The complaint comes about when another buyer who didn't get picked finds out that the seller had this letter. And they, as a buyer, were told not to send such a letter. And now they want to know why that person got picked instead of them. And they go to the Human Rights Commission, and guess what? You know, we had one little incident a couple of years ago with the Human Rights Commission. It was a bogus thing, but here's the eye opener. Tom Gallagher actually stepped in and tried to help this lady who was a renter, and the agent really didn't drop the ball. It was just a very difficult thing to find this lady a rental. He actually took her out one Saturday to try to get her into a rental, and she was impossible. And besides bringing up the agent, she threatened to bring up Tom to the Human Rights Commission, but we already had the case in the Human Rights Commission, and Tom was trying to smooth things over. So when the Human Rights Commission heard it, they said to the lady, "What do you want as compensation?" You will never guess what she said.
Yeah, $50,000.
Ha ha. $2 million.
What?
On a
Oh my
$1,600 rental.
John,
Yes, on a $2,000 rental.
John,
That's why I don't like to do rentals, but I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just giving you the reality of the situation we live in and how careful we need to be.
John, I have a question.
Sure, Joe.
If the buyer sends the so-called love letter to the seller and you don't know about it,
You're okay. But if the seller reads it, the seller can be in trouble. And that's my point today.
How is anyone going to know that the seller actually read
You know,
it?
it's
Or
funny
is it-
how these things go. I don't know how this stuff gets out. But when something goes wrong, it goes very wrong. And somebody makes a comment, whether it's the listing agent to another agent or the seller to their friend or whatever it is, it doesn't happen all the time, you know? And we ended up paying this lady, I think, $2,000. So, you know, your back is covered. And I don't want to get crazy about, you know, what the problem is here. But we do need to be aware of where we are in the current political environment, and we're under the microscope, and we just need to be careful. We have your back, but we need you to be careful. And that's why I'm mentioning these love letters, because I never thought, I said, well, okay, the buyer does it, the buyer's agent, you know, is in on it, that can be a problem. But I never thought of the seller getting in trouble if they read one of them.
What is that basically just like a setup?
Yeah, it can be, you know, you don't know. But from 15 years of managing, I know that these things are real, and you can't imagine how they happen. And they're not a setup. They're just, when anything can go wrong, everything goes wrong in a transaction. And then somebody gets very mad and they go and they complain to whoever they can complain to. They'll complain to LIBOR, they'll complain to the Department of State, they'll complain to the Human Rights Commission until somebody does something. Now, the other good news is, you know, that the courts threw out 2 of the cases that came from Newsday. I'm not sure if there were more, but I presume that there will be no more court cases coming out of Newsday, because it's obvious that the courts don't think the Newsday way of doing things was credible or fair to the agents. So that's on the other side of the pendulum, which is a good thing. And, you know, that's all about brokers backing their agents when it ends up going to court. And, you know, it gets a little bit ridiculous, you know, and we know that. All we want to do is be aware of what we say. Do not speak before you think, and just be very aware of fair housing issues.
Well, the issue that I've seen is that they can file a claim and you just have to defend yourself.
Correct.
And that's the problem. You know, I had an issue because of my high profile position, and they were just coming after me because they wanted a check.
Yes, and that's a problem for our company.
Right.
The bigger you become, the bigger target you are.
Correct.
But our brokers are very aware of that, and they've never left anybody floating in the wind there. So we do have your back, even when E&O might not cover it, because we're defending our company's reputation too. Now, that doesn't mean you should screw up. Doesn't mean you should just fly, you know, the first thing that comes out of your mouth. We do need to be more careful. But the fact is that it should not stop us from doing what we do, which is being good advisors to buyers and sellers. Okay, on with the announcements. Heart of American Homes Foundation. Just want to give a plug here. This is the season of giving. We usually have some big events to fundraise. We will not have them. They have a couple of small things. I just heard about the Super Bowl boxes that will be there. But really consider thinking about helping our foundation help other people. And what I love about the foundation is we're not giving to Easter Seals anymore. We're not giving to any big organizations. You know, somebody finds somebody in our area, and our area is big now, that's in need, some family that had a disaster, whether it was a fire or somebody really sick or whatever, can't afford funeral expenses, we're stepping in and we're helping. And, you know, I really love the idea that, you know, we're not giving tens and $20,000, but to some people, $3,000 you give them to help defer the cost of a funeral can make all the difference in the world in terms of them feeling, you know, that somebody cares. So on both sides, number one, you can make a check out, or you can fill out a form so that a small amount is taken out of every closing. And on the other side, if you do come across somebody in one of our communities that might need a helping hand, that, you know, might not, social service or some big organization might not be able to fit in, we can fill those cracks. That's what our foundation is about. So I find that very heartening. And as I said, we're not doing a big fundraiser this year, but think about either writing a check or filling out that form so that a little piece of your next closing comes out of the of your check to the foundation. If you have any questions about it, let me know. Mike Sims is our representative, and you can also contact him with any questions or requests for help for people. Okay, I'm thinking of 2 different trainings in the next few weeks, and I'm gonna want your feedback on whether you think they're useful to you. And I will be sending a text out today. I think I'll send them separate. The first one is a mock listing presentation, which we haven't done in a while. And we used to do them live, but I think it'll work very well on Zoom as well. So I would like to do that in the next week or so. And the other thing is we're almost finished with our business plan meetings. And I thank you all for cooperating. I've had some really good conversations with many of you. And the interesting thing is there seems to be a pitch towards farming, which I love. I love it because it's about the grit. It's about the long view of things. It's about you never run out of things to do if you're farming. Farmer is always busy, whether they're planting the seeds or cultivating the seeds or whatever. So if you have decided to do farming, and some of you have made a recent decision to switch to farming, I would like to start a farming mastermind group that would meet once a month. And mastermind means you help each other. You share your pluses and your minuses, and we try to get everybody to be a little bit better with their farming. This is not a class. This is not for people who are not committed to doing farming. It would be only for people who are committed to doing farming and would like the extra help from their colleagues. So I will be sending those 2 texts out, and please respond if you're interested. And then we'll narrow down some times. But I think it's a great time to start, because if you're starting farming now, you're going to produce crops in the spring market. So no better time to start than now. If you're thinking about it, let's talk about it. But again, this will be only for people who are actively doing it and want to share what they're doing. The other thing in terms of training is I put out on YouTube a section of our last meeting, the little thing that I said about paperwork. It's about 6 minutes. If you have not reviewed that, I'd like you to go to our YouTube channel and get it. I didn't put it as public because of the way I put it out there. So if you don't have the original link and you do want to review it, let me know and I will send you a new link. It just explains how you should be handling your paperwork and when you should be doing what piece of paper, because we are still far from being perfect in this respect. And it's all about protecting your commission and protecting your license. So very important that we do that, and it's out there. I've said it many times, but now I've memorialized it as a video that everybody can review whenever they need to. Okay, so the last thing I want to try to cover is do a little review of your online digital marketing. Now you say, well, I'm not doing digital marketing. Well, whether you're doing it or not, the people you are talking to who are your prospects are Googling you before they hire you. And if you have not Googled yourself recently, it's time to do that, to find out what's out there and what somebody, a prospective seller or buyer, would see when they Google your name. And the first thing they should see is your LinkedIn profile. Let me explain how SEO works. Search engine optimization is all about getting the right results to people who are looking for things. And one of the big things Google uses to figure out if you should be on that first page or not is authority. How do they know you are who you say you are? How do they know that you're a real estate agent? How do they know that you know what you're doing? And the first place to confirm that is LinkedIn. So you need a LinkedIn profile that says you work with Coldwell Banker American Homes, that you're not a secret agent, and you need to have that profile beefed up. One of the things that you might not know is that you can add an introductory video to your LinkedIn profile. And I recommend it strongly. As we're talking about digital footprint and people Googling you, if you think you can get away with not using video, you are very mistaken. You know, and this has been coming down the road, and it keeps becoming more and more critical. So get over it and get in front of your phone and start practicing. And I would be happy to help anybody who's having some challenges with it. Some of you do it very well. You know, I see Dan and Mark right there on the screen, and, you know, they have robust YouTube channels. Everybody needs a LinkedIn account, and everybody needs a YouTube channel.
John, can I
It
ask you a
is,
question?
what's that?
When you're done, I wanted to ask you a question about what you just said.
Okay, no problem. The internet is turning into videos, and people don't want to read anything. So whether you're promoting a house or promoting yourself or promoting your favorite charity or whatever, you need to use the video. And LinkedIn lets you put a video on your profile. YouTube lets you put 2 videos. One for people who are not subscribers and another one for returning subscribers. And then your Delta Net website lets you put a video on your front page. So you should be using all those tools. Go ahead, Mark.
It was just the question about LinkedIn. I've never heard that before. Not that I'm doubting it, just that is LinkedIn in any way linked to Google? I mean,
No, not at all. And I don't recommend you put the link. I recommend you upload the video. It should be a 2-minute video, and you should upload it natively to LinkedIn. If you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see my video.
no, I totally understand what you're saying, but LinkedIn, I mean, this is just my research, is predominantly B2B, business to business, not business to consumer.
I
As
don't
for
agree with that.
marketing, you don't
Really?
have to, it's just my opinion. And
Okay.
most people on LinkedIn are business to business people from what I've seen. But my question is, wouldn't they be better off making a Google profile First of all, as to when it comes to critiquing a prospective business person in any platform, all that information is voluntarily uploaded and not cross-checked by any entity except Google. If you make a Google profile, they're going to mail a mailing to a business address, and you have to enter a code to basically make sure that you are who you say you are. As for what you put on your profile, nobody polices that whatsoever. You know, thus the Facebook hearings going on right now. You could upload anything. So when people Google you, I think your Google profile is the most important with reviews, hopefully positive, because that's the first thing that Google will upload on their platform. LinkedIn is on my page, but it's like 10 spaces down. Google is front and, you know, right in the beginning with a huge profile about realtor and Syosset.
Yeah, that's funny because I don't get a Google on my front page unless I put in my address, because it's Google Places that ends up getting up there. And the fact is, let me just talk about LinkedIn. What percentage of sellers are in business or own their own business? And what percentage of them are on LinkedIn? And I would guess it's close to 80, 90%. You know, and obviously when you're doing a listing presentation, first thing you want to do is Google the person. And the first place I want to go is their LinkedIn account, because I see the jobs that they had and the kind of person they are because of the kind of things they say in that account.
All right,
So
well, you're more of a business person. So I think that's where you're coming from. I think people who are more of a younger generation, they're going to Google people. They're going to Instagram people. They're going to check them different ways. I think it's generational. I hear what you're saying about, I mean, a lot of professionals in networking groups, it's all about LinkedIn, and I totally agree. But from being in some of those groups, they all agree, at least from the ones I spoke to, that it's mostly B2B, to get business. And most people that I know are not LinkedIning people unless they're a business person and they want to see their business profile. If it's an attorney or somebody else, I would go on LinkedIn and check a lot of information. And a lot of people don't like doing that. And do you know why? Because there's a track record of who searched them. So they want to stay anonymous. So they avoid that, because if you Google somebody, they don't know you searched them.
yeah, but I love it that the person I looked at LinkedIn will know that I looked at their LinkedIn profile before I show up at the listing appointment. I think that's very cool.
I guess it's all on it's all on you and what you like. But I truly believe that the most important thing is to get a Google profile going with some positive reviews, because that's going to be the thing that I see populate first and is most impressive, Google reviews. And coming up first, and Google's going to put it front and center on any search if you do it. And you said when you search your name, you don't get Google. Do you have a Google profile? You created one? Maybe you got to be more active on it. I don't know.
No,
Maybe
LinkedIn comes in right away. Coldwell Banker comes in right away. It's interesting. But the point is, everybody should Google themselves.
Yes.
Everybody should find out what's there. And when people click on LinkedIn or Google, what do they see? And what they need to see is a consistent profile.
Yes.
No confusion. This is who it is. This is what they do. This is how they do it. And that's why video is so important, because it fills in the missing information that people can't read on your profile, but they can read you when you're on that video. So listen, there's a downside to it. People might look at your video and say, I never want to do business with this person. But guess what? In the long run, they weren't going to do business with you anyway. And we're all about attracting like people who do want to do business with us. And the quickest way to find them is to put yourself out there so that they see you. And if they see you in your video on LinkedIn, and they see you on Facebook on a video and Instagram, and they see you on your DeltaNet website on video, and they see you on the YouTube channel, that's enormous exposure that we would pay thousands and thousands of dollars for, and all that I just said is free. Okay, thanks for that comment, Mark, but I'd love everybody, next time they go for a listing appointment, to go to LinkedIn and see if the person is there. I would imagine that you're going to find that most people are going to be there, because most people, even if they're not running companies, their company, it requires them to have a presence to do business. So in any case, I think that's pretty interesting. Okay, so one of the things about a digital presence, and I said this many years ago, but I think it's still true, you need to think about hub and spokes. The hub is the place that you want to send everybody to, and the spokes are the places feeding into the hub. And the hub should be a URL that you control. So I have johnemirati.com. Mark has his thing. Dan has this thing. A lot of you do have that. And then you decide where you point that to. And the beautiful thing about owning that is I've pointed that johnemirati.com to like 6 different websites in the last 10 years. So you can easily change the hub anytime you want, and you keep getting the spokes. If the spokes are all going to johnemirati.com, you never have to change that. You only have to change where johnemirati.com is pointed to. Now, I prefer to point it to my DeltaNet website. I think it's good enough, and I think I can put enough on there that makes sense, so that when somebody sees me on LinkedIn, somebody sees me on Facebook, if somebody sees me on Instagram, they're going to go to johnemirati.com and see my DeltaNet website. One of the things is I reviewed everybody's website yesterday, and I was quite surprised that most people have not changed much about the website they got. You might have been under the impression that it's not easy to change, or the way we gave it to you is the way you should use it. That is very far from the truth. The truth is, it is the best website tool I've used, and I've been using websites since the 1990s. I can't tell you how easy it is. And I'm just going to give you an example of 3 of our websites that don't look like the normal website, just to give you an idea of what you could do. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Let me change the screen in Google first. Okay, so Mark's is first. If you notice, the normal kind of website that we see is nothing like this. It's a template, and he has here, download your free seller's guide. You don't have that on your website if you haven't changed it, but you definitely could have it on your website pretty easily. Is Dan Murphy's, completely different look. How much is my home worth? Click here. Featured searches, residential, commercial, open houses, virtual tours. Really good looking, and you even got a slideshow going on in the background, which might be a little too fast, but good job. And here's mine. The reason I want to show you mine is this is the way most of our things look, but you see, I've changed the menu. We're hiring full-time agents, our training calendar, what our agents like about our company, investor consultation, buyers, all kinds of different stuff. And then you have the video right on the first page in front of your biography. So I hope that gave you some idea of what you could do with yours. And as I always say, I am not looking for you to become a tech expert. You really only need to know what you want to do, and we'll sit down and do it. What will take you an hour and a half will take me 5 minutes. So don't waste the time. You're not getting paid to be a website developer, but it is pretty easy to work with this. All you need to know is how you want to, what niche you want to fill, and then what content you want to give to that niche. And this is a great time of year. Again, we talked about farming. What you're doing in farming now is going to result in benefit as the spring season starts. And I'm just looking at the chat. Cool. And if you start working on beefing up your website, getting your Google profile, your YouTube channel, it sounds like a lot, right? Don't get overwhelmed. Start with one thing. This week, do one thing. Next week, do something else. The week after that, do something else. In 12 weeks, you will have done 12 things to move your business forward, and none of them should have taken more than an hour. I think that's a really good investment in your future. Any questions, suggestions, comments? Okay. I appreciate you all being on today. And we need to keep working on those listings. I know some of you have more listings coming, which makes my heart happy. But this is not a time to slow down. This is not a time to take a break until the new year. This is a time to actually prepare for a very successful spring, and I'm here to help you any way I can. Have a great day.